All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I'm your host, Cardon with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everyone, how you doing?
And today we're going to talk a little bit more about Andrew Yang and his gun control policy. We've got a sequel to our first video on his gun control policies, but there's been some new revelations that are going to give us a little bit of new discussion on Andrew Yang and his gun control policy. So, Cody, take it away. What were you doing?
Well, first of all, this video is kind of inspired by you guys really going through a lot of our comments. A lot of people have been watching our original video on Andrew Yang's gun control, and I've been reading in our comments a lot of the similar sentiments that I've been seeing on Andrew Yang's own Twitter account. I want to throw up a few tweets here, and in response to Andrew Yang putting forth some of his more gun control policies. Here he says the classic line, there's no practical reason for citizens to have assault weapons. Someone said, this is the main issue stopping me from voting for you. I understand you're a Democrat, and this is the most Democratic view, but I urge you to reconsider. And then we have another one person right here who says, well, I donated to you. I have tickets to your rally, but you just lost me. You probably lost a lot of supporters with this too. Many small L libertarians, or kind of left-wing libertarians, like what you say for the most part, but stuff like this will drive them right away. And I think what this highlights is, I don't think there's any disagreement here that Andrew Yang's a smart guy. And Andrew Yang really, he doesn't put forward a lot of policies that are just kind of like him talking out of his ass, like, well, we'll try this. He details. I'll throw up on screen his gun control policy. This isn't some kind of half-cooked thing. It's deep, it's thorough. However, there seems to be...
But it seems a little half-cooked to me, at least in terms of intelligence, and he usually doesn't bring so much naivete or dogma to the table. Usually things are so well thought out. Things can be well thought out and misinformed at the same time. And the reason why I love doing these videos with you, Cody, is because so much of Andrew Yang is substantive, and he brings so much intelligence to the table, and he's willing to cross party lines in terms of dogmas. But this is the first time where I really feel like A, he doesn't get it, like even close to getting it, and B, he's pandering. I get it when you're doing your interview with the Root.
Pandering is strong. I think pandering is a little bit strong. I think this divide fundamentally comes from just where you live and your relationship with firearms. If you know very little about them other than they kill people, and you've never really seen one in person, you never really used one before, you live in a city with police and guns are only used in crime, you're going to have a certain perspective. But this is what I want to highlight with Andrew Yang. And it's not just Andrew Yang.
Yeah, but that's not an excuse, because
it's not an excuse. I just want to say I don't think he's intentionally pandering. I think he's just trying to do his best, but his perspective is a little bit different. Because here's a Reddit AMA, which is, again, it's just basically open Q&A. And this is Andrew Yang himself responding to this. And someone said, I'll summarize it, basically said, hey, I'm a fan, I'm a gun-loving liberal, and I vote Democrat forever, but some things are confusing to me in your gun control policy. Now, one of the big things of his policy is a tiered system for firearms.
Okay.
With basically what he considers to be the less dangerous firearms in a lower tier, with a lower barrier of purchase, and the more dangerous in a higher tier.
Okay.
However, someone asks him right away, why does the first tier include handguns? They represent the largest number of deaths in both homicide and suicide. Andrew Yang responds, well, the tier indicates the destructive power in a public setting. So handguns are indeed the most commonly used gun for suicide and homicide, but the tier isn't tied to frequency of use, its ability to incur mass casualties.
Wait, hold on a second.
Right away, just one thing I want to highlight really quickly right away. A lot of people seem to say the same thing, like, well, these assault rifles. I'm just going to flip over, and this is a grim list, but these are deadliest mass shootings in the United States. I want to flip it over. I want to highlight something. If you go back to what was the deadliest mass shooting before 2016, what kind of firearm was used? Semi-automatic pistol. 32 people were killed. You go down to another...
What shooting was that? Virginia Tech?
Virginia Tech, okay. 2007. You go down to another one. There was the Luby shooting from 1991. Not very familiar with. Semi-automatic pistol, 23 killed. Now you look at a lot of your semi-automatic rifle and pistol. Sandy Hook, semi-automatic rifle and pistol. Or it's even relevant to point out in the Pulse nightclub shooting, a pistol was also used. And even at Las Vegas, I guess a revolver. I'm assuming the revolver was used on the shooter. At that range, a revolver would be useful. But what I'm trying to say is, this notion that handguns aren't used in these mass... It's insane. It's crazy. It's just factually incorrect. They are used. Up until 2007, the single deadliest shooting in the history of the United States on our soil, well, modern history, was committed using only semi-automatic pistols. So this notion that what appears to be this very well thought out, deep, kind of, nuanced plan, it's just right here. He says that handguns are not used as destructively in a public setting. Are you kidding me? That, like I said, up until 4 years ago, the deadliest shooting was committed with handguns. Like, this notion that they're just not as deadly as rifles in a public setting is just absolutely false. And really quickly, one more thing I want to touch on. The second question the person asked them is, well, can you define what you mean by a basic hunting rifle? He uses that in his first tier. I say, is that a bolt gun? What is it? And he says a gun that has not been modified to increase its firing range, power, and capacity. Capacity, I'll give you. People do try to increase capacity in weapons. Power, you don't really see as much. You kind of buy a gun chambered into certain things. That's what you're going to use it for. And then range, I'm very, very, very. I'm not the expert in firearms. People trying to extend the range of a firearm once purchased, though, is not very common.
And to be honest with you, that would actually make it less effective, and that's where I really
harder to wield. Yeah, it'd be a bigger, more
much harder
weapon.
to wield. I mean, have you ever seen the record setting? There's a Russian that tried to make the longest shot on target. And so he made a 1 meter circle on this 4x8 piece of plywood, okay, and was shooting at it from like miles away. And they had to design this 50 cal sniper rifle that looks like it was the freaking muzzle of a tank just in order to be able to, get that distance. So trust me, the more distance, the less effective in mass shooting. But this is what I don't get. If we're measuring human life and we want to have gun control in order to hopefully control the amount of gun deaths, why prioritize mass shootings? To me, that seems like you're just going for the glamour instead of going to actually compassionately try and help those that are struggling with problems. Because as we know, mass shootings, yes, they are tragedies, but I don't know how you measure human life, but if we're just going to give one life 1 point, okay, the points given to depression and suicide and handgun deaths from self-inflicted deaths and handgun deaths from domestic violence and murder are far higher than the mass shootings that we have. So if you wanted to prioritize what did he say was the terminology? The efficacy and power. I got to tell you.
Destructive power in a public setting.
Yeah, destructive power in a public setting. Let me tell you, a concealable 9mm, a small 9mm that I can tuck behind me.
Realistic, a gun with and one thing else I want to bring up, speaking of, and again, I'm not trying to rag on people that feel this way, including Andrew Yang, but I just think it's important to be kind of real and understand this. State of California, I believe we were just talking, I believe the magazine limit for a rifle in the state of California is...
I think it's 13 rounds.
It's much smaller than the 30-round magazine that come with a lot of weapons.
I know that the 30-round magazines are illegal now. That's all I remember. I know that all of the magazines that we use at the range are all legal and everything like that, but I don't remember exactly how many there are because different calibers can hold different amounts of rounds in each magazine. But my point is, this really frustrates me, and Andrew Yang, when we asked him about abortion, for example, he said, I defer to those who know best. Women have children, therefore they know best how to legislate pregnancy. And to a certain extent, I'm okay with that argument if you will be intellectually consistent and say, you know what? I defer gun legislation to those that know about guns, and I don't know about guns. Because obviously, by putting in a higher tier handguns than hunting rifles.
Well, no, they're on the same tier, hunting rifles. Again,
sorry, not hunting rifles. I mean assault rifles. I apologize.
Well, actually, just really quickly, tier 1 would be basic hunting rifles and handguns. Please explain to me what a basic hunting rifle is. I don't think it legally exists.
An AR-15 is a basic hunting rifle.
Yeah, well, tier 2 would be semi-automatic rifle, I believe, which is where you would come into that. And then tier 3, advanced and automatic weaponry. For the most part, this stuff is very rare. Mostly you're seeing people, and I'm not a firearm expert, but a lot of the fully automatic weapons you see bought and sold.
Well, let me tell you,
are older weapons. They don't manufacture automatic weapons to be sold anymore. So
I've been forced to become a miniature expert on the legislation here in California, as I'm one of the merit badge counselors at camp. It's crazy how quickly the legislation passes here in California. But the truth is, functionally, all of these things are the same. They are all the same. The only difference is that handguns have a huge advantage in concealability, okay? And once you start down this trail of gun control, it only leads one place, and it only leads there very, very quickly. And government has only proven to be able to do one thing, be very stupid about how they regulate guns. Here in California, we had an assault weapons ban. And do you know what one of the criteria?
Oh, that was federal, I believe. The Clinton assault.
Well, no, there was the federal assault weapons ban, yes. But in California, we had our own assault weapons legislation. And do you know what one of the proposed actually was one of the laws, but one of the proposed amendments to the laws also was when it was re-upped and they tried to renew it. It was aggressive looking guns.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, this I think is the ultimate kind of spirit of this video right here. This one again, because I've brought this up before, but there's a divide on how you view firearms, and there's a lot of people. You know what? No offense against these people, but they just fundamentally, like I said, it's just the idea that a handgun, a pistol, a handgun, whatever you want to call it, is not something that can be destructive in a public setting is absolute. It's just nonsense. It's just you would only say that if you just are ignorant to the issues, and I hate calling people ignorant of the issues they speak about because I don't know everything. But what I'm saying is the idea that a hunting rifle being modified to increase its firing range, like what? That isn't a capacity I'll give you, but like firing range and power, like what? Is this really an issue? From what I know from people who collect firearms and shoot firearms regularly, the only things they really care about is ease of reload. They don't like the government restricting their reloading, which in the state of California is very difficult to reload rifles. Again, I believe there's less restrictions on reloading pistols than there is rifles. So again, this idea that pistols can't be deadly in a public setting, I don't think they have the same restrictions on being able to quickly reload them. So but all I want to get is a point that I think it's really important for people, because you can have all these great ideas in your head. You can be a smart guy like Andrew Yang. You can feel like you know what you're talking about. But unless you really dive in and figure out, like, what is it people that collect and shoot firearms on a daily basis in this country, what's actually bothering them about the firearm laws? I can tell you something. No one's saying, oh, the dang government's restricting the firing range of my weapons. No one says that. They say the government's restricting my magazine capacity, restricting my ability to reload weapon. For example, there's these, I don't want to use the words people in the gun community use, but there's weapons you see coming out of states like New York. They barely look like weapons because they have every little thing they could possibly have on to get around all the laws, and they barely look like what they are. And what I'm saying is it's really easy, and we all do it. We all think we're pretty smart, we're pretty capable, and we can figure this stuff out. But I just really encourage people, before you really, really get out there and voice your opinion on, I don't want to say voice your opinion, before you really dig in and really feel like you know what you're talking about, look a little bit more into the Second Amendment, the spirit of it, and look more into firearms. Because, hey, I'm totally fine with you saying, I think people should be able to own pistols because they're the best personal defense weapon, but don't tell me they aren't dangerous in public settings. That's not true.
Well, and also, so is this kind of like, would this be a deal breaker for you as a voter? Do you kind of share the sentiment
100%
of the Twitter guy that 100%. Said, you lost me?
100%. The way I look at it, and I could be wrong about this, I could need to get educated, admittedly. However, the way I look at it is you look at the Bill of Rights and in our Constitution. And the people who wrote the Constitution, wrote the Bill of Rights, they stoked the flames, participated in, and facilitated the revolution. And if you read through the Bill of Rights, it's really a guide on how to overthrow a government and resist tyranny. One, you need to be free to say whatever you want, whatever you believe about the people that are above you, oppressing you. You have to be able to say what you want. One. Two, you need to be able to back that up with something. And go down the line. You need to be able to gather in public. And now what happens when we have people speaking their mind about speaking against tyranny, gathering in public, and allowed to carry weapons? Suddenly you have something that's kind of a force for resistance. And you get further down. The government can't store soldiers. Anyone ever read that amendment and thought, what does that mean? The government can't store soldiers in my house in peacetime. What does it even mean? Yeah. Well, that's what the British did. During the Revolution, they would store soldiers in your home. So you couldn't speak out against them, and they wouldn't know what you were thinking. So what I'm saying is, it all hinges on those first couple amendments. You take away one, the rest fall. If you're not able to speak out against the government, you can have your guns. Doesn't matter. You're not gonna stoke the flames. You're not gonna build a revolution. The country we're in today, say what you want. I don't believe we need to violently overthrow our government, but I believe what makes America so cool is our founding fathers enshrined the playbook on how you overthrow an oppressive government. It's all right there. Yeah. You get in the streets, you speak out, you tell people what's going on, you arm yourselves. You prevent the government from housing soldiers in your home, and you go out in the streets and take it to them. That's how you do it. And it's all right there in the beginning of the Bill of Rights. So,
and we've done it multiple times. The Black Panthers did it here in California, up in Northern California, in Oakland, and that whole area when they had their touring militias, and that's what stopped or helped quickly and precipitously stop all of the police brutality. And for me, I'll just close with this, is I very much agree with that Twitter follower. Okay, I wasn't ever in the bag for Yang, for lack of a better term, and we're going to continue analyzing all his policies, and we give him the opportunity to come onto our podcast or on our radio show and to speak his mind and clarify. But just like George W. Bush promised that he would tell Congress, read my lips, no new taxes, I am looking at all of the rights and freedoms we have lost within my lifetime alone, and I look to any presidential candidate and say, read my lips, no more losses of any more constitutional rights. And that's how you're going to get my vote. Anyway, continue this conversation in the comments below. Please let us know what you're thinking. This is Problem Solver Politics.